Hey folks, this is Rhykker, and in this video, I'll cover all the major information we learned about Diablo 4 at BlizzConline, from panels and off-screen interviews. This was an exciting BlizzCon for Diablo. We had the reveal of Diablo 2 Resurrected, be sure to have checked out that video with all the details if you haven't, and we had the reveal of a new class for Diablo 4. The Rogue. So let's dive right into it. The Diablo 4 Rogue is a re-envisioning of the Rogue that we knew from Diablo 1 as a playable class and Diablo 2 as an NPC hireling in Act 1, as well as just the Rogue encampment. The reveal trailer for the Rogue started with a priest in a church praying to Akarat. It was a misdirect that made us think, oh, is a new class going to be a paladin, a crusader, maybe some kind of priest? So they got us there. But there was actually a cool dark twist in that cinematic that the priest had actually hired the rogue to assassinate certain targets. We also note in the cinematic that the rogue is missing an ear. Was she defeated in combat at some point? Or did she need to remove her own ear as a show of faith? Or perhaps it's a tie to the Amazon, who in real world but debunked mythos would remove one of their breasts to better fire a bow and arrow. So there's that sort of self-mutilation tie-in. Or maybe I'm reading way too much into it. But basically with the Rogue, they wanted to bring things back to, quote, the godfather of all dexterity-based archetypes, which the Diablo 1 Rogue was. With this new Rogue, there's a little bit of Amazon in there, there's quite a bit of assassin, a bit of demon hunter, and its own thing as well. And it's just this incredibly flexible class that can adapt to any situation. And I already know I'm going to be a rogue main. I'm the kind of person that plays all the classes. In every Diablo game, I always like to play every single class, but I can already tell the rogue just seems so amazing. It's all the kinds of playstyles that I like, but we'll get further into it here. And what's really cool is you can create the kind of rogue that you want to play. You want to be an archer, you can be an archer. You want to be a cloak and dagger kind of rogue, you can be that. Basically, when someone says that you can play as a rogue in a game, different people will have a different idea of what that means, right? And the devs wanted to make sure that whatever kind of rogue you're imagining, they got you covered. So there's just this huge amount of customization in picking a playstyle. And that customization actually extends to physical appearance. We see with the Rogue, we can customize so much of the appearance more so than any other class. It's possible, though, that this degree of customization will be coming, physical customization will be coming to all classes, and this was just previewed first with the Rogue. But you got tattoos, you got scars, and again, there's that customization of the playstyle, where you're mixing bows and blades. It's almost like the devs knew that they needed some kind of dexterity class, but they couldn't agree on what kind of dexterity playstyle to add. So the Mad Lads added them all. So the D4 Rogue uses swords, daggers, bows, crossbows, and at all times can have melee and ranged weapons equipped, so that you can swap between melee and ranged skills. Again, you can customize your appearance, but the default starting appearance starts you off looking very much like the Diablo 1 Rogue with the red leather. And it's interesting to note that you are not gender locked. No classes in Diablo 4 will be gender locked. That is confirmed. Now, evidently the question is, well, hold on, the rogues in Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 were females. They had to be, because they were all members of the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye. But a lot of time has passed since then, and your rogue may or may not be a member of the Sisterhood. In fact, I think at the start, you're definitely not a member of the Sisterhood. There are other rogue factions in the world. A rogue now can refer to multiple different things, and that ties into one of the very unique things of the rogue, which is the ability to pick between one of 3 specializations by working with one of the rogue groups in the world. So you could be a member of the Sisterhood of the Sightless Eye. You could go seek out to become one. It's almost like a prestige class, where you start off as just a rogue, but then you can specialize by trying to join one of these other rogue organizations. So there's the Sisterhood, but there's also the Outlaw Smugglers of Hawazar, or the Mercenaries of Kejistan. And the rogue, and only the rogue, will have special quests to undertake for these rogue groups around the world. And it's by doing these quests that you can then unlock the specialization that corresponds to the rogue group. And the 3 specializations, from a gameplay perspective, are the Shadow Realm, Exploit Weakness, and Combo Points. And what the Shadow Realm does is you basically have this power that lets you pull a small group of enemies with you into the Shadow Realm for a short time, where it doesn't matter if there were a ton of enemies around you before, now it's just you and these few that you've selected. You do more damage to those enemies, it lasts a few seconds before you poof back and all the enemies can see you again. But it gives you that window of opportunity to not have all the damage coming at you, because you're probably going to be squishier than a lot of the other classes, and you can just assassinate those few targets. Then exploit weakness is very different playstyle. You'll sometimes see an icon appear over an enemy's head. I believe it's when they're at some point in their attack animation, and if you react fast enough, almost like a QuickTime event, you will do a counterattack that deals more damage, like a critical hit to that enemy. It's a playstyle that's going to reward players with fast reflexes. It's really a skill-based playstyle. And then the last one, combo points, is basically your basic attacks build up combo points, and you can have up to 3 combo points stored at any time, and then certain skills will consume combo points for additional effects. So you sort of get into this rhythm of making basic attacks to build up your combo points before consuming your combo points with other skills. A little bit like Generator Spender, but more interesting, it seems. And to clarify, all 3 of these specializations will work with either ranged, melee, or hybrid playstyles, and all of those are perfectly valid and viable playstyles. You can be a pure ranged rogue, you can be a pure melee rogue, or you can be a hybrid. Now, if you remember in Diablo 2, the rogue mercenaries that you can hire could imbue their arrows with different elemental magic. You'd want to get a frost one, for instance, if you wanted to stop the damn Fallen from respawning by shattering them into little popsicles. And so the D4 devs wanted to pay homage to that with a new feature for the rogue, the imbue system. Basically, you have 3 different skills that you can choose to add to your skill bar: frost imbue, shadow imbue, and poison imbue. And these imbues are active skills that will temporarily enchant your weapon for a few attacks. So you activate your imbue, and then your next few attacks for a few moments will possess that elemental imbue, or I don't know if you can call shadow an element, but that form of enchantment, and that'll carry through to your different powers. So a frost rain of arrows will behave differently from a shadow rain of arrows. Now, you cannot stack imbues on yourself. If you activate an imbue, it'll override an existing imbue. However, the imbues could have effects on enemies, and you can stack imbue effects on enemies. So if, for instance, you activate your frost imbue and then you attack an enemy with frost, presumably you're gonna chill him or something, then you swap to a poison imbue and then you poison the enemy, you will get both of those, the poison and the frost effect, on the enemy, is my understanding. And you don't have to take every imbue on your skill bar. You can choose to, but evidently it's a trade-off. The more skill slots you're giving up for imbue, then the less other attack skills you have. Overall, the rogue seems to be a super mobile class, which I absolutely love. Lots of abilities to move, to close the gap quickly, get into an enemy's face, pop in, pop out. Great ability to just move around the map. They never mention this, but the implication is that it's going to be a squishy class, so they make up for it in the ability to get out of harm's way before the pain comes in. That said, it was clarified the rogue cannot just evade endlessly. There will be those moments of vulnerability. Presumably, if you're just spamming things mindlessly, you're gonna get trapped and die. We've seen a number of different skills that the rogue has, something like a rain of arrows, something like a rapid fire, a dash attack, caltrops. Again, I love the rogue, and as of right now, I just feel I'm gonna have so much fun when I get to try the rogue. Alright, on to our next topic. We learn more details about PvP. There will be dedicated PvP zones in the world called Fields of Hatred. If you choose to go in there, then you can kill other players in there, and they can kill you. And apart from the joy of killing other players, the other incentive to be there is to collect shards of hatred. You can get those from either killing monsters in the area, or killing players in the area, or opening chests, yada yada. And when you first acquire these shards of hatred, you get them in an unpurified state. You can't do anything with them yet. And if you die, you're gonna drop all of your unpurified shards. So another player can kill you and take all your unpurified shards. Or, you know, instead of going through all the hard work of farming up monsters, you can just go kill players and steal their shards. And then again, these shards do nothing by themselves until you take them to a purification event to turn them into a currency that you can then use at special PvP vendors for special cosmetic rewards. But here's the catch. Purifying is not instant, and when you start trying to purify, nearby players will be alerted and they can come try to stop you. Because once you've purified the shards, they're yours to keep. You won't drop them anymore. Now, I'm someone who's not really big into PvP. Any interest I have into PvP is more around organized PvP, so this is, I guess, sort of organized PvP. I don't yet know how I feel about this system. I can certainly say I'm warming up to it. I wasn't terribly interested when I first heard about it. Now as I'm thinking more about potential strategies, potential things, it's a little bit more interesting. I guess my main concern right now is just how is this not going to devolve into something that is only accessible to end game players who are end game geared? Like, is this a system just for them because anyone else who goes in there is just going to get stomped? Or will there be any way that this can separate out players into tiers of play? For instance, in, D2 we had like low-level dueling, where you had, for instance, a level 9 character versus a level 9 character. Equal playing field, it's not a level 90 coming to stomp on a level 35. But maybe that's what PvP players want. I don't know, I'm not a PvP player. I think there's some interesting implications with regards to coordination between clans. For instance, you can probably rally a bunch of people to bogart a turn-in event, done for either good or ill intent. Presumably you can just get a bunch of, a roving band of goons to just stomp on any other player that enters a zone, or a more, I guess, positive spin would be a bunch of people that agree to work together to fight off anyone that comes to try to get them. Let's say you just want the cosmetic rewards, and so you get your guildmates with you, and you just farm up everything, you protect each other, but you're not actually going to hunt other players, you're just taking out any players that try to interrupt you from doing the turn-ins. There's a lot of interesting possibilities, and I find those especially interesting when things happen that can organize a number of players, or that spur community engagement in different and unique ways. Now, we also learned that monsters in the Fields of Hatred will drop loot just like any other monsters in the world, in addition to dropping the Shards of Hate. They're just monsters. There won't be any special loot that they drop, but they will drop loot, and that loot cannot be stolen by other players. The only thing that can be stolen is the Shards of Hatred. Now, the other thing about PvP is if you kill enough other players, you will become a vessel of hatred. Basically, you get a bounty on your head. You'll appear on other players' mini-maps, so they're gonna know, oh, there's this hotshot over here, and if someone else kills you, they're gonna get a bonus. But if you survive, then you get a bonus. We also learned that there will not be separate gear for PvP, or any affixes that only work versus other players. Alright, onto some quick talk about mounts, as in horses, which you have in D4. We learned that there's going to be a whole collection aspect to mounts. Different mounts can be found in the world, and you can acquire them either by completing puzzles, or finding hidden locations, or killing specific monsters. Different horse items will be available, as well as cosmetics, like horse armor, hoof plates, trophies to hang from your horses, and you can personalize your mount. You can even get, for instance, horseshoes that will change the horse's speed. I'm not too sure what other sort of changes from a mechanical or gameplay standpoint you can make. I'm not sure what there would really be outside of wanting your horse to go faster, especially because we know that horses or mounts can't take damage, but if you are attacked while on horseback, you will be dismounted. So, is there maybe some item that will increase the threshold of damage that you can take before you're dismounted? We could only speculate. Now, the devs did specifically say that they did not want to have jousting added into the game. Basically, that you stay on horseback and you keep fighting while on horseback. But what we do have is dismount attacks. So you see this all the time in the gameplay. Someone's riding in on a horse, and then this super smooth transition between riding on horseback to attacking. It's generally, as we see with the rogue, for instance, it's sort of a rain of vengeance off the horse. It's a jump up into the air while shooting arrows into the air and landing down into combat. In the past, we've seen it with the sorceress doing some ice slide, and it looks and feels a lot better than having to hop off your horse, then attack. Now, another feature that was spoken of is something called camps. And the background there is that at the end of Diablo 3, Malthael killed like 90% of the world's population. That's not an exaggeration, that's the number they gave us. 9 out of 10 people are dead. So this has left immense power vacuums in the world. Places for bandits and monsters to come in and take over. So camps are places that have been overrun by evil, and you can reclaim them. And once you reclaim them, then you unlock a waypoint for yourself, and maybe some other things depending on what camp it is. It could be some vendors or NPCs or a dungeon that didn't exist before. And once you've taken over a camp, it's permanent for your instance. Evidently everyone has their own instances. But once you've done it, it's done. This is your permanent impact that you've had on the world, on helping to reclaim Sanctuary. And I'm going to finish up here with some miscellaneous things that don't fit neatly into any one category. Starting with items. Now, depending on where in the world an item drops, that will actually change the item's appearance. So they gave us an example, a sword that drops in the Celtic Druid lands of Skosglin will look different from a sword that drops in Sandy Kechistan. A broadsword versus a scimitar, for instance. That also gives us a bit of information that suggests that base item types are likely to be restricted to the weapon. So one-handed sword is likely a base weapon type, and there won't be a mechanical distinction between a scimitar and a broadsword. We don't know that for sure. That seems to be an implication. We can ask for more clarification there, but it feels like one-handed axe, one-handed sword, as opposed to like different types of one-handed axe with different mechanical properties. But again, this wasn't made explicit. This is an assumption. Another thing that we noticed and had confirmed is that something that a lot of players were, or a number of players were complaining about, hit effects. All the flashing on the screen, the flashing of the monsters when you're hitting them, that has been turned into a toggleable option and has also just been reduced. It's been severely diminished, and it's also been made a toggleable option, which I've always been advocating for. It doesn't bother me personally. I don't really care about that immersion aspect of the hit effects, but I know other people do, and I figure having it as a toggle hurts nobody. It's a win-win. On the topic of the Druid, we've gotten reaffirmation that you cannot always be in werewolf form. This isn't new information, but it's reaffirming that which we already knew. So basically, the Druid's gameplay that they show tends to be a lot of hybrid Druid, where you hit a skill and that is a werewolf skill. So let's say it's like a maul skill. You click it, and as you maul, you transform into a werewolf. And you remain a werewolf for a few moments before reverting back to your human form. And we know that you could, if you want to, equip only werewolf skills. So literally every skill you activate will always turn you into a werewolf. That said, if you're out of combat, if you're not activating any of your skills, after a few moments you will revert to your human form, and that's by design. They do want you to remain connected to the human body, to be able to see, what you look like with your gear, that you're human. That's a deliberate decision. It seems like they're not going to give you some power where you hit a button and for 2 minutes you're just werewolf form. It's also been confirmed that you can only ride your mount while in human form. We learned a little bit more about how town portals are going to work. Since it's an open world with no traditional act structure, when you hit town portal, well, what town do you go to? Well, basically you get to choose where to anchor your town portal, so that when you hit it, well, you're going to go back to a predetermined location, but you can change what that predetermined location is. The devs were asked about solo self-found, and while there wasn't a firm answer, they didn't outright say no, it did feel like it's not something they're really looking to implement. Some really good news that I'm very happy about, they got rid of the little delay or root that would happen when you would do the dodge maneuver. So in my gameplay, I remember it took some getting used to, and it never felt quite right, that when you dodge, there's a brief moment where you can still attack, but you can't move. And it felt, I don't know if cumbersome, it just didn't feel right in the flow of combat to do this quick dodge, which it's good, it's like a skill shot to avoid taking damage. It makes you be very strategic about when you use the dodge, but it still didn't feel great to be effectively rooted in place for a brief moment. And I understand why they did it. It's because they didn't want you to be able to just use it as a means to move faster, right? And a lot of games where you have the ability to dodge, well, while you're running, you just keep spamming dodge, and then you're moving faster than people who are not spamming dodge. So we don't know exactly how it works now. We do know that you still cannot spam it, but we don't have that little mini route that happens. It's also been suggested that more info about endgame will come in the future. The hint was maybe next quarterly update. We also got more information about how freeze effects work with respect to chills. So there's a chill and there's a freeze. Presumably freeze is the monster is fully frozen and can't move, and chill is sort of slowed because of being cold. And so you can have skills that will apply chill on enemy, and this will build up chill until it eventually reaches a point of freeze. And what's been conveyed to us is that if you have two players, each applying two sources of chill, that will freeze an enemy faster. A couple other small things we see for just a few frames of animation and Dariel in the game. We already knew she would be in the game, or at least we heavily suspected it. There was concept art made for her, but now we actually see the model in the game. We also see now on the Diablo 4 website the silhouette of the 5th class. Now, this is either just an image that's intended to serve as a representation that is meant to look generic and is not a hint, or it is the actual silhouette of the actual 5th class, and we can now speculate endlessly about what that is. Another interesting thing that we learned was that from a philosophical standpoint, the devs by design want to create unique class mechanics that basically drive players to want to try out the different classes. That sort of sense of benign envy where, oh wow, that class gets this cool thing, I want to try out that class because I see, you know, my friends or these other people in the world doing this thing, and that seems really cool. I want to try it out for myself. And that's going to wrap up this video. However, I will have more BlizzConline coverage coming. Specifically for Diablo 4, I had a chance to do a one-on-one interview with game director Luis Barriga and art director John Mueller. And if you want to get caught up on the other major BlizzCon reveals, you can check out this video here, because that's going to wrap up this video. Thanks for watching. Special thanks to my Twitch, Patreon, and YouTube supporters for making these videos possible. If you like what you see on this channel and want to support the creation of more content, you can consider pledging on YouTube or Patreon and unlocking behind-the-scenes content, monthly virtual hangouts, and more. If you enjoyed this video, please share it, check out these other videos, and subscribe to join Rhykkers Raiders for more Diablo content.